then that I was asking you about. On February 18th, 2022, you posted on Twitter bemoaning the dropping of mask requirements for children, including those under the age of 5. Do you remember that post?
No, Senator. Those tweets were in my personal capacity.
No. I asked you, would you give all public posts that you had made on Twitter?
A White House nominee for National Archivist restricted her social media account shortly before her congressional confirmation hearing. She subsequently informed Senator Hawley that her public updates focused entirely on mystery books, athletic teams, and her family dog. Senator Hawley actually possessed the authentic messages during the proceedings. He had secured every individual digital record. Subscribe to the channel and let us roll the footage.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Shogan, when you were here last year, a number of senators asked you, including me, a series of questions about articles you'd written, public statements you had made on social media that were, I have to say, pretty grossly partisan, and I thought offensive, and you and I went back and forth about it. After that, a number of us asked you questions for the record relating to these statements. I want to follow up on one of them. I, in particular, asked you to give us a full accounting of the public posts that you had made on Twitter. You had locked your Twitter account before you came before this committee. It had previously been public. I asked you to provide the public posts that had previously been available on Twitter because the ones that we have were pretty disturbing. You responded as follows, and I quote, "My personal Twitter account is comprised of posts about my mystery novels, events at the White House Historical Association, Pittsburgh sports teams, travels, and my dog," end quote. Is this an accurate statement?
Yes, Senator.
I just remind you, you're under oath. Is this an accurate statement?
Yes, Senator.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your Twitter posts then that I was asking you about. On February 18th, 2022, you posted on Twitter bemoaning the dropping of mask requirements for children, including those under the age of 5. Do you remember that post?
No, Senator. Those tweets were in my personal capacity.
No. I asked you, would you give all public posts that you had made on Twitter? You said no, effectively, and you said that your Twitter posts consisted of mystery novels, events at the White House Historical Association, Pittsburgh sports teams, travels, and my dog. And you just told me now under oath that you stood by that. So now let's talk about your Twitter posts. On February 18th, 2022, you posted bemoaning the fact that mask requirements for children under the age of 5, one of whom I happen to have, by the way, had been dropped. Is that a post about your dog or sports teams?
My social media is in my personal capacity,
Answer
Senator.
my question, please, because you've testified under oath that you only posted about your dog and sports teams and novels, and you also said you wouldn't give this committee any of your public posts. So, is your post on February 18th, 2022, bemoaning the lifting of mask requirements for children under the age of 5, who I might just ask, all of the data has said is extremely harmful to children, these mask requirements? We'll leave that aside for now. Is that a post about your dog or sports teams? Yes or no?
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
Yes or no, Ms. Shogan? You are under oath before this committee, and I have to say, you have placed this issue squarely in record by repeatedly refusing to answer. Yes or no?
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
So you're not answering my question. Let's talk about another post. 26th of May, 2022. You talk about an assault weapons ban, retweet a post, ban assault weapons now. Say you agree with this idea that you have to be a certain age to buy so-called assault weapons in America. Is that a post about sports teams or your dog or mystery novels?
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
What about the post on January 5th of 2021 in which you say that Ted Cruz ought to stay in his own lane and not worry about what's going on in Pittsburgh? This is a reference, I think, to questions he had about the certification of the last election. Is that a post about your dog or sports teams or mystery novels?
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
What about the post, you remember December 10th, 2020, where you said that you were hoping that President Trump would have his vetoes overridden, and you agreed with the post that he was a weak policy president? Is that a post about your dog or sports teams or mystery novels?
My social media is in my personal capacity.
What about your post on January 5th, 2021, in which you speculated that President Trump would pardon himself next, participating in a conversation about the certification of the Electoral College? Is that a post about sports teams or mystery novels or your work at the White House Historical Association?
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
What about the post? Do you remember this one? I said we seem to be having an incredible case of amnesia, but maybe you remember this one. This is from December 3rd of 2021, in which you advise an individual who goes by Meg on social media that the Library of Congress, you advise this person to complain about religious flags that have been planted on the grounds of the Library of Congress, and you say that they ought to be removed. And you go on to give this person advice about how to complain and have them removed. Do you remember that post?
My social media is in my personal
Do you remember the post?
capacity. My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
I have to say, I have been here for 4 years in the Senate. I have never seen a witness stonewall like this before. Never. And I've seen a lot. This is extraordinary. Do you remember this post? December 3rd, 2021.
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
I mean, this is unbelievable. And you want to be the archivist of the United States. You lied to us under oath. You lied to us in your QFRs. You just lied to me a second ago under oath. And now you're sitting here stonewalling, not answering questions about public posts that you've made. Are you a lawyer, Ms. Shogan?
No, Senator.
Are you familiar with the Shirtliff case at the United States Supreme Court?
No, Senator, I'm not.
Well, in that case, the Supreme Court held that in fact it constitutes viewpoint discrimination for a government entity to remove religious flags from its property when it's opened up the property to allow other people to put flags on it. Exactly the question that you were addressing in your public posts on Twitter. You're giving legal advice, which you're not qualified to give, directly contrary to the United States Supreme Court. I just wonder, does this have to do with your view that you wrote about that the religious right is connected to the rise of anti-intellectualism in American politics? Is that why you said what you said about religious flags, that the religious right is a force for anti-intellectualism? Explain that to me.
No, Senator.
Do you stand by your comment that the religious right is part of the rise of anti-intellectualism in American politics?
Senator, that article was written. It was about how Republican presidents use common sense terminology to effectively communicate with Americans.
Yeah, in which you said that the religious right, the rise of the religious right is part of the rise of anti-intellectualism in American politics. I just point out that's the article in which you say anti-intellectual, the title is Anti-Intellectualism in the Modern Presidency, Republican Populism. Very nonpartisan. Dr. Shogan, I'm going to ask you again, will you give to this committee your public posts on Twitter? Will you make them available to this
My social media is in my personal capacity.
Mr. Chairman, I have to tell you, this is the most extraordinary thing I have seen in my brief time in the Senate. I have never seen a witness blatantly lie under oath like Dr. Shogan has just done to this committee, stonewalled this committee, and just repeatedly refused to answer my questions about her own posts that are in public. For these reasons, I will oppose your nomination, and I strongly, strongly urge this committee to take action on this and force this witness to own up to the fact that she is misleading us right now before our eyes, Mr. Chairman.
This is exactly what mainstream outlets refuse to report regarding how Dr. Colleen Shogan arrived at the Senate Rules Committee session, fully aware her social media presence posed a massive liability, prompting her to completely restrict access right before stepping into the room. Subsequently, when Senator Hawley formally requested that she submit her previously public commentary for the official congressional record, she flatly declined to comply. She proceeded to testify under penalty of perjury that her digital timeline contained only casual commentary regarding detective fiction, gatherings at the White House Historical Association, local Pennsylvania athletic franchises, vacation trips, and her personal pet. Senator Hawley had already produced physical copies of those exact digital messages. The initial confrontation involved a message from February 18th, 2022, where the nominee published a statement strongly lamenting the removal of face-covering mandates for toddlers and infants. The senator confronted her directly by asking if that particular upload concerned her household pet or professional athletics. She simply responded by claiming her internet activity was conducted strictly within her private life. The lawmaker pressed her again, demanding a binary answer on whether the content discussed fictional literature or face coverings for youth, she continuously deflected by reiterating to the senator that her online profile represented only her private capacity. The next piece of evidence centered on a May 26, 2022, interaction where she amplified another user's message advocating for the prohibition of certain semi-automatic firearms. Hawley challenged her again by questioning if this specific publication related to baseball clubs or her canine companion. The witness gave the exact same scripted reply regarding her private internet usage. The third item involved a January 5, 2021 message sent just 24 hours prior to the Capitol breach, where she declared that Ted Cruz needed to mind his own business rather than scrutinizing Pittsburgh, clearly referencing the senator's inquiries into the voting certification process. Hawley once more inquired if this highly political statement had anything to do with crime thrillers or her pet. The nominee stubbornly repeated her line about maintaining a completely independent digital presence. The fourth controversy involved her messages regarding the former commander-in-chief, where on December 20th, she concurred with a publication labeling him an exceptionally weak executive on policy issues. On January 5th of the following year, she openly theorized about the president issuing a self-pardon while actively engaging in an online discussion focused on the electoral vote certification process. The senator questioned her thoroughly on every single instance, only to receive the exact same repetitive answer regarding her private digital capacity each time. The fifth major exhibit dealt with a December 3, 2021 incident, where an individual named Meg publicly griped online regarding faith-based banners flying at the Library of Congress. The nominee directly instructed this individual on the specific administrative steps required to formally demand their immediate removal. Senator Hawley highlighted two glaring issues, beginning with the fact that she had effectively provided formal legal counsel to an ordinary citizen regarding a complex constitutional matter, despite possessing no law degree. Furthermore, the highest court in the nation had previously resolved this precise legal dispute in Shurtleff versus City of Boston, clearly ruling that civic institutions absolutely cannot ban faith-based banners from civic spaces when alternative symbols are allowed, as that constitutes illegal viewpoint discrimination. She aggressively encouraged an activist to submit a formal grievance demanding the exact type of unconstitutional censorship that the Supreme Court expressly forbids. The Missouri lawmaker explicitly connected this behavior to her previously published scholarly work, a paper exploring anti-intellectualism within modern executive administrations, where she aggressively smeared conservative Christian voters as a primary driver of ignorance in national politics. He stared directly at the nominee and stated unequivocally that in his 4 years serving in the upper chamber, he had never witnessed such blatant obstruction, accusing her of committing perjury during live testimony, submitting false written testimony, lying to his face again that very morning, and persistently dodging basic inquiries regarding her own publicly accessible statements. The individual holding the office of National Archivist is strictly tasked with safeguarding the most incredibly vital historical records throughout the entire existence of the United States. This position serves as the ultimate guardian tasked with defending the total accuracy and absolute integrity of our nation's factual past. The current administration selected a candidate who deliberately concealed her digital footprint to prevent congressional oversight, only to subsequently commit perjury regarding the actual contents of those hidden files. It is ultimately up to the American public to determine if an official with that kind of track record deserves to be entrusted with the most sensitive historical documents in the country.